Hey, good morning, everybody. You know, of course, you can see the title. I'm here to talk about the mysterious figure, Ian Flynn's answer to the mysterious figure in 237. You have to excuse me. I'm getting over a sore throat or wherever it is, mucus and stuff. So bear with me here. um, but Ian Flynn answered somebody at his Bumble King forum, saying that the mysterious figure is actually figures, and that the figures are Lita and Lyko of the Wolfpack. Excuse me. Yeah, Lita and Lyko of the Wolfpack, the twin female wolves, if you will. Now he says that them being the mysterious figures and all that, and them being part of the secret freedom fighters in the universe arc, will all come together as you read on. Now, I don't doubt that Ian Flynn probably has something planned. But when you come out and you say to the fans that you've had to revise this issue due to certain reasons, and then when you go online on an online podcast and tell everybody that a certain character that I think everybody pretty much figured out was the mysterious figure had to be put on the shelves for the time being. I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to kind of add two and two together, if you know what I mean. Now, I can understand sometimes head writers and all that, doesn't matter if it's comic books or graphic novels or television or whatever or movies, that they have to revise and revision certain things. I mean, even in professional wrestling, sports entertainment, if you will, they have to do the same thing. In fact, I remember. Excuse me. In fact, I remember 2 years ago when the WWE did the Nexus angle. The week after the Nexus debuted, they had to revise the reason that Daniel Bryan was not with the group. As anybody knows, Daniel Bryan was originally part of the Nexus when they debuted. But because of him choking the ring announcer with his own tie, the ring announcer Justin Roberts with his own tie, they had to let him go. Now, it was only for about 90-something days or something like that. Basically for at least a few months so he can kind of learn his lesson or something. But anyway, they had to revise the reasoning as to why. They had to basically, they pretty much knew, anybody that read the internet, they pretty much knew that Daniel Bryan had been let go. But for those that didn't, and were probably wondering why Daniel wasn't there, they had to revise the plans for Daniel Bryan in that group. So instead of saying, instead of just coming out and saying he was fired because he did something he shouldn't have done, instead they revised the storyline to explain that it was the Nexus. And again, like I said, any original plans of the Nexus that involved Daniel Bryan had to be revised. So, and that goes for even the show that Nexus came out of, NXT. When they did NXT Redemption, when that originally began, Darren Young, who now is on the SmackDown brand, his pro was Chavo Guerrero. Excuse me. His pro was Chavo Guerrero. But when Chavo left the company, they had to rewrite and revise everything that involved him and Chavo as pro and rookie, as well as a potential tag team with a tag team title shot on the line during that time. Well, wait a minute. It wasn't Darren Young. It was actually Johnny Curtis. That's who it was. Johnny Curtis. They had to revise everything planned for him and Chavo. Well, wait a minute. No, I don't know. It was wait a minute. Darren Young and Chavo. That's what it was. I'm confused. It's like cuckoo. Anyway, like I was saying, Darren Young his situation had to be revised because Chavo had left the company. So anyway, even in professional wrestling, like I say, they have to do this sometimes when certain things come up. You know what I mean? You know, it's kind of like with the whole Benoit deal. If Benoit hadn't done what he did, he was originally going to win the ECW title back in 2007. That didn't happen. Instead, because of what he did, John Morrison was written in to become the champion instead. So you kind of get what I'm saying. You know, even though Ian Flynn has planned out for the mysterious figure to be probably who we all pretty much figured it was going to be, he had to revise that. He had to change it. And that's why, you know, he tells people on his forums now, oh, by the way, the mysterious figures, or figure, you can now call them figures, and that's Lita, and they're actually Lita and Loka, or Lita and Laika, or whatever her name is. Lita and Loka, Lita and Lyko. That's who it is. Lita and Lyko. Yeah, I don't know how to pronounce the names. But anyway, the twin sisters of the Wolfpack basically, due to his circumstances beyond his control, have to be, you know, then have to take the place of the original idea. Now, not a lot of fans are happy about this. In fact, even fans over at his forum that actually support him and enjoy the issues he's doing have all actually come out and said, you know, that this issue, and believe me, I have not read it yet. I'm waiting until this whole thing gets resolved, or at least we get some kind of anticlimactic deal or something like that. I don't know. But basically, some of the people over at his forums, you know, they you know, they like the backstory more than they did the main story. And, you know, sometimes when they like a backstory, even though it ties into what's going on to the current story arc, that says a lot when fans come out and they say they like a backup story better than they do the main story. Now, you see, this is where and this is what fans weren't hoping. Were hoping wouldn't happen. They were some fans at his forum, not at his forum, at various forums, at various sites. This is something that they were hoping was not going to happen. They were hoping that as some people put it, the lazy writing wouldn't rear its ugly head again. You know? But for once, I will say this, you cannot blame, and I said this in my video, in a previous video, and I'll say it again, you cannot blame Sega of America for what's going on. You cannot blame Sega of Japan. You see, the reasoning he probably had to revise what's going on is not just to, as he tries to put it, and he's probably got something planned for it. You know, it's not just for him to lay out the scenario where the Wolfpack twin sisters go and join the Secret Freedom Fighters. No, it's not just that. It's not just something that he had planned out with that. No. What it is, you know, it's basically the situation going on with Ken Penders. You see, Ken Penders has come out and said that of all the characters that he does have rightful ownership to, it's Hershey the cat. And he hasn't really been too thrilled that during the time Ian has been on board, that there have been various stories out there excuse me, that there have been various stories out there that have featured Hershey in the story. And he hasn't been too happy about this. He hasn't been too happy about it whatsoever. Now, you might say to yourself, you know, you might be saying to yourself, or asking yourself, you might be saying to yourself, while you're listening to this, saying, you know, so basically you'll be asking while listening to this, so Ken Penders' lawsuit is what's preventing Hershey from being in the comic. Yeah. I mean, right now, that's why you don't see the Chaotix that much right now. I mean, you do, but you don't see him as much right now. Well, let me put it this way. Knuckles, the Chaotix, Julie Sue, those characters, like Jeffrey St. John, are more kind of like, Ken does kind of still claim ownership, or tries to claim ownership over those characters. But here's the thing. Whether he does get rights to those characters or not, it seems that he's more allowable to Ian and Archie Comics to let them use them more than he would someone like Hershey. In other words, he's more relaxed about it. He's just gonna, like, okay, fine. He's like, okay, fine. You guys want to use Knuckles and Julie Sue and whoever else I created, like Jeffrey St. John, that's fine. There's no problem. But Hershey's off limits. You see, that's the thing. All because Hershey is actually based off his cat and based off one of his pet cats, and actually based off a character he wrote about beforehand. So basically, that is why when Ian says the situation's beyond his control, that's what he's talking about. But you'd think he'd realize by now that fans have pretty much caught on to what he's doing. I mean, when you take a look at the first issue of the Egg Scrambled 4-part miniseries in Sonic Universe, which just ended, and you see the panel where you have Drago approaching a Legionnaire of the Fredelver division, you see that the Legionnaire has a black tail and everything, and kind of goes, and as soon as like Drago is transported by or teleported by Eggman to the Death Egg or whatever, you see the Legionnaire going whoosh, and that's pretty much a tip-off to a lot of fans. And when you think about the location where the current story, where the current issue, the current 2-part issue is at, it's almost like this is where, this is like this is basically where things, should come to fruition, that things should be happening. You should be getting answers. You should be getting answers. You know what I'm saying? But we're not. And again, that's what kind of pisses some fans off. It's like, well, why can't you just give us a straight answer saying, oh, yes, the mysterious figure was Hershey, and the reason I had to nix it or had to revise it is because of what's going on right now with Ken Penders and all that. I mean, why can't, in the eyes of some, why can't someone like Ian Flynn come out and say that? It's because he already knows. He knows, but he's not saying anything. And you know what? When a writer, like I've said, in comics, novels, wrestling, sports entertainment, wrestling, and all that, movies, television, when they know that a fan base pretty much has an idea of what's going to happen, sometimes they have to revise it and rewrite it so it'll be a little bit more different, and it won't be exactly what fans have in mind. For example, we go back to wrestling. At the Extreme Rules pay-per-view last year, a lot of fans thought that Nikki Bella was going to defend the Divas title against Karma. That was pretty much the scenario, but that wasn't the case. WWE realized that's what we were thinking, and instead brought in Layla. Not a bad choice. I'm not saying that, but But instead of karma, they brought in Layla because they knew we as fans figured out that it could be karma. But you get what I'm saying. You see, we can't blame Sega for what's going on. We have to, if you want to put the blame on anybody, you got to put the blame on Ken Penders. I mean, yes, there are mandates that Sega hands down, but this is one mandate Sega is not responsible for. This is a mandate that's being made by Archie Comics and Ian Flynn himself because of what's going on with Ken Penders. Now, like I said at the beginning, Ken basically has said that everything will tie in and work out. You just got to keep on watching, listening, reading. Okay, fine. You know, we get that. We understand that. Yeah, we understand that. But hopefully, as I mentioned in the other video, things will turn around in the next issue or so. I mean, if Ian Flynn has said that the dark rock bottom times are over, then hopefully by 238 that'll be proven right again. I mean, I don't think you want to leave fans off with a cliffhanger with Eggman holding up two mechanical arms over loop on an operating table, getting ready to operate on her. I don't think you want to do that. But if he goes ahead and legionizes her, you know, what are we supposed to say, huh? You know, I mean, you talk about fans being pissed off about Sally. You take Loop and do what you're going to have him do what he's going to do, that'll piss him off even more. But, again, I don't think it's going to happen. If it does, you know, maybe it won't be, you know, maybe she won't be brainwashed, but it'll be more along the lines that, you know, she'll just have mechanical arms now. Anyway, the point of this whole audio video is the fact that right now, Ian Flynn has a lot of fans wondering what he's got in store next. And hoping that he doesn't go back to that lazy writing and all that they were hoping he would avoid. Because like I said, even Game Boy Sage is starting to like the arc even more so, except for this one situation where they're 50-50. So that's all I'm going to say on this. Excuse me. You got any comments? Drop them down below. Let me know what you guys think. Video response if you want. And again, tell me what you guys think. Do you agree with what I said? And do you think Ian can turn it around with the next issue or so? Comment down below. Tell me what you think. And I'll talk to you later.